Welcome to Green Giants, Titans of Renewable Energy, the podcast where insights and innovation meet. Every episode, we dive into conversations with industry leaders, experts, and change makers, bringing you the stories and ideas in the renewable energy sector that shape our world. And now, let's jump into today's episode with your host, Wes Ashworth. Welcome to our latest episode of Green Giants, Titans of Renewable Energy. Today, we're excited to welcome Jason Kaplan, the Chief Operating Officer and General Counsel at PowerMarket. With a robust commitment to advancing clean energy solutions, Jason steers PowerMarket's strategic operations and legal directives, significantly enhancing their community and solar initiatives. Since his arrival 5 years ago, Jason has transformed PowerMarket from a modest team of 6 into a thriving force of 26 diverse professionals. Under his leadership, the company now supports nearly 400 community solar projects across 11 states, representing over 800 megawatts of capacity and servicing over 85,000 subscribers. PowerMarket is a leader in the community solar industry, offering comprehensive acquisition, management, and billing and support services to solar project developers, financiers, and the incumbent energy industry generally. As an employee-owned, mission-driven company, PowerMarket combines the industry's best software platform with deep energy policy expertise to deliver cleaner, local, and more affordable power to communities, with a special focus on delivering those benefits to lower and moderate-income households. Join us as we dive into Jason's journey in renewable energy, his strategies for growing a sustainable business, and his vision for the future of community solar. Jason, it's an honor to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Wes. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Absolutely.
The first time I've been considered a Titan before, so
you're
I'll
a Titan. You're here. Absolutely.
Yeah, I made it.
Yeah. So start out, little origin is usually a great starting place. So tell us a little bit about your background, how you transitioned from environmental law to the clean tech startup world, and eventually becoming a COO of PowerMarket.
Yeah. So I think my genesis kind of started in college from a just environmentally focused, initiative. So I was a geology major at Colgate. And kind of, it was a little bit unusual because, Colgate, that wasn't necessarily, that's not why I went there. But being a liberal arts school, I got exposed to sort of all these different disciplines and just really fell in love with geology. And that's sort of where sort of the start of just appreciating like our world, Earth's processes and how fragile it is. And I come from sort of a long line of lawyers. So it was kind of manifest destiny that I was one day going to be a lawyer. My grandfather was a trust and estates lawyer. My dad was a trust and estates lawyer. And I kind of knew, though, that trust and estates law was not, I liked it. I worked with my father for a little bit, but that was not kind of where I felt my passions aligned. And so kind of my senior year of college, I was like, I want to do environmental law, right? That's sort of where, if I'm going to take my geology knowledge and background and bring it to something that I'm going to do, let me do environmental law. So that kind of brought me to Vermont Law School, which had the number one environmental law program. And there I got my sort of law degree, as well as they had a dual degree program. So I got this master's in policy as well. And so that through that experience, it kind of, opened my eyes to sort of how I can affect change in the environmental landscape, and really loved sort of a lot of the policy aspects of it, because you really saw how individuals can really affect change through policy transformations and to promote programs and initiatives that, theoretically enable a better, world for us all. And so that was kind of the basis of, kind of the academic, elements for me to become kind of an environmental lawyer. But afterwards, I had the privilege of, working in a variety of different environments. One was at General Electric, kind of in their environmental health and safety. And so I got a really, really great exposure to like how the business world kind of treated environmental issues. I moved from there to a law firm that was doing a lot of, super fun site litigation, kind of hard environmental law. Yeah. And I'll be honest, Wes, there wasn't the kind of law that I thought I would be doing, right? When I was studying kind of climate change law, and it wasn't helping people fight over who should clean up and who should pay for the cleanup of a contaminated waterway or groundwater system. Now, again, my geology background and knowledge really helped in understanding some of these things, but that wasn't kind of where my passions really lied. And so from there, I had the opportunity, I sort of I could see that there was something more out there. Like sitting in a law
Sure.
firm in an office reading documents every day wasn't necessarily like, oh, this is enthralling. I could feel like my personality lended itself more to like, I want to do business, entrepreneurial. I had this sort of spirit. And I could see, this was, close to 10 years ago, climate tech, clean energy, renewable energy was kind of really coming into its own. I'm based on Long Island, and I could see, at the law firm, I was actually gave a presentation on solar energy on agricultural properties, out in the east end of Long Island. I started like, hey, the solar thing, maybe there's something there. And so I started kind of exploring kind of the clean energy, industry space. And frankly, it was a moment where there was an event hosted by the New York City Acre, which is this clean tech incubator. Now it's called Urban Future Lab. And they were doing this green career event. And on the panel, there was an individual who's a lawyer, who's a general counsel for this small wind energy company.
Okay.
And I remember sitting there being like, man, like that would be awesome to like use my law background, but work like in-house at a clean tech renewable startup. Like, man, that sounds like,
yeah.
And so I connected with him after the panel, had some coffee. He was like, hey, actually, I'm going away on vacation. Do you mind, coming in and just sort of reviewing some of these wind leases that we're reviewing? Okay. Sometimes that's all it is, Wes, right?
Right place, like, right time. Yeah.
Right place, right time. And, once I got that little foot in the door, I was like, this is where I want to be. I want to like be part of the clean tech future startup universe. And I'm thankful, right? Like that I got that opportunity. And from there, kind of the rest is history. I thank the CEO of the company, United Wind, Russell Tenser, became a mentor of mine, and had me, because again, at that time, Wes, I knew nothing about being a lawyer in the clean tech universe, right? Like I was doing environment, but I think, people can see your passion, your engagement, and they're like,
absolutely.
All right, this guy, let's see what we can do. And so, through that experience, that kind of got me into that steps into the clean tech space. And from there, I was able to navigate, to where I am today. And I'm happy to share more about, PowerMarket and how I got there too.
That's incredible. That's an incredible story. It's kind of aligning that passion and skill and, right place, right time. But I love that. And to transition probably to a lot of the theme around this interview, which I know is a topic you are very passionate about and areas that you're impacting every day, in terms of community solar, I know this is a central theme for you. For those that might not be familiar, can you explain just quickly what community solar is and how it may differ from other renewable energy solutions out there?
Sure. So really, community solar is a state-enabled program, and its core intent is to enable those that couldn't otherwise install solar on the roof.
Right.
So I think, for many years now, there's been public policy goals, right, at the state level to have this energy transition happen quickly, but to also allow for as many people to be a part of it. And historically, there's just been an exclusion, right? If you don't own your roof, if you don't have the financial wherewithal, if you, you couldn't install solar on your roof. Community solar became this program and product that really enabled renters, residents of multifamily housing, but even, small businesses, churches, universities, hospital systems that, again, whether they could install solar or maybe they weren't ready to install solar, community solar really is this program that provides access. And truly at its core is just this democratization of access to clean energy. And it's just, for me, especially, it's, I think we all are trying to figure out what can we do as part of to make an impact on climate change. And for many people, there's not much they can do. Community solar really is that thing that enables them to really participate and be an active participant in, our clean energy future.
Yeah, incredible. And so you mentioned the importance of including low-income households in community solar programs. And as you said, like those are usually where it's not necessarily available from a financial perspective, or, not having the ability to put solar panels on your roof if you don't own that roof. But community solar really bringing in that inclusion, helping bring renewable energy to low-income households. Can you elaborate, I guess, on some of the specific challenges and benefits associated with this inclusion and with community solar?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the history kind of, is sort of, it tells this tale where there's been this desire for inclusion of low income households, but in the community solar industry, years ago, there was still that legacy of rooftop solar and kind of the requirements that existed to be a participant. And so in mainly early years of community solar, there was still sort of FICO requirements that you had to have to enroll in a community solar program. There was cancellation fees that could be fairly onerous for participants in community solar. And inherently, that created a barrier to entry for low-income individuals, as well as the fact that, as these programs had, been created, there was this requirement that one who was a subscriber to community solar would have to pay for their credits, but at a discount. So there's always this notion of guaranteed savings, but there was this requirement that, hey, if you wanted to join, we needed your ACH details or your credit card. And again, for those that are low income, they may be underbanked or unbanked. Again, another barrier to entry. But that's where, the changes of policy and programmatic rules, as we're seeing in markets like New York and Maryland and New Jersey, but this implementation of net crediting, or it's also known as utility consolidated billing, where essentially instead of the entirety of the credit of community solar credit being applied to a customer's bill and them having to pay 90% of that to get that 10% savings, the utility is simply applying that 10% savings directly on their bill, making just it so much easier. And again, there's reasons why, obviously, there were those initial requirements to have a FICO score and have credit card details because, again, fundamentally to community solar, the economics work because you are monetizing the value of those community solar credits. If the subscriber isn't paying for those credits or if they're defaulting, well, then the economics fall flat, right? And we would have to remove those customers. So there was legitimate reason for it, but it limited kind of who could really participate. Now with this sort of concept of consolidated billing and net crediting, really subscribers, there's no more default risk from the, from the solar developer's perspective. There's no more kind of, the inherent kind of mechanisms of risk to monetization of those credits. And so that's obviously opened up the doors. It's eliminated kind of those barriers to entry for low income. In fact, it's now encouraging it, right? We have policies now at the state level to, whether through a carrot or a stick, ensure the inclusion of low-income households in community solar.
Yeah, it seems like, such a win-win solution that to me feels so obvious and clear, and a great thing to do and continue to promote. I would say you don't hear tons out there, about it, which is why I'm glad to have you on here and talking and educating those out there in terms of some of those details. Transition a little bit to a live example. So kind of fresh off the press, you guys, announced the partnership between PowerMarket and Redwood Family Care Network, and that being a significant step in utilizing community solar to support vulnerable populations. And so could you elaborate on how PowerMarket tailors its community solar offerings to meet the specific needs of organizations like RFCN, and maybe how you see this model evolving to support other similar organizations in their pursuit of sustainability and resilience against climate change impacts?
Yeah, I think when people think about community solar and they think about who's the participants of community solar, we talk about a lot of the residential households. And that's valid, right? That sort of ultimately is the inherent beneficiaries of these programs. But that's not at the exclusion of nonprofits, affordable housing organizations, like, and Redwood is a tremendous example of, they're an intellectually and developmentally disabled housing provider where their participation across 35 residential properties is going to create, again, for them, they have obviously, ESG goals that they're looking to, meet. But also there's unequivocally the financial benefit, right? These are programs that are going to give them guaranteed savings. And what we found with working with partners like a Redwood, we work with Catholic Charities, we work with a whole host of, affordable housing providers, is that, they take that savings and they reinvest that back into their properties. They reinvest it into their facilities, into the services that they're providing for their sensitive populations.
Right.
And all through clean energy, right? That's the sort of beautiful narrative that all of this benefit is coming through the development of more clean energy on the grid.
Mm. Yeah. If I said win-win, that's a win-win-win. That's just so great
there's win-win. I mean, like Wes, that's like everyone's always asking, like, Jason, like where's the catch? Where like this? And
exactly,
I'm always like that's where communities. that's the value of the relationships with a Redwood, with a Catholic charity, is like, guys, you don't need to believe me, right? Like, I'm biased, right? My PowerMarket, our job is to educate, engage, and enroll subscribers in community solar. And I'll be honest, sometimes, Wes, it's frustrating that I still have to sell community solar to people, because it's something that, frankly, people should buy, right? People should be aware of it. And I've been doing this now for 6 years. And in the earliest days, I'm like, how does not more people know about community solar? I don't understand. Even people within our industry, in the environmental sustainability, but yet here we are today, still trying to promote these programs and to enable those, because for all the reasons we discussed, it's like, man, like this, for a residential household or for a municipality or for a religious institution, like nothing is changing to how they get energy supplied and delivered, to their home. Nothing is being installed on their property. They can do all of these other kind of energy efficiency and all of that can happen. And on top of all that, community solar can be this wonderful accretive program. But again, this is why I'm here, is really how do we get more people to understand what the benefits of this program is, to be knowledgeable about it and seek it out.
Yeah. So is that the main points of resistance? Is it sounds too good to be true and a lack of, knowledge and awareness? I mean, are those the major two things that you have to overcome out there, or is there anything else?
Yeah, listen, I mean, the notion that this sounds too good to be true, you're getting to support clean energy and get guaranteed savings. It's like always, where's the fine print? What's the catch? And that skepticism is understandable, right? We've worked in a retail clean energy marketplace where there have been bad actors, right?
You're right.
Again, we're fully supportive of rooftop solar, but I can't tell you how many stories I hear as I kind of go into different states and different markets of, oh, this guy sold me on this, or he actually attached the cost of my solar panels to my property my property taxes, and that was not what I was expecting. And the door-to-door sales element to kind of the rooftop solar industry. And then when you go to the retail energy supply market, now again, we work with energy retail suppliers as well, but again, they have not had sort of the best sort of history, if you will. And so when we come to different markets where people, it's the first time they're hearing about community solar, they either think we're about to install something on their roof, or trying to sign them up for energy supply like they would at a farmer's market. And we tell them, no, this is not either of those things. But listen, we get it. People have a hard time when they hear community solar. They hear solar, they go to what they know, which is rooftop. Like, no, I don't want it on my roof. I'm like, no, we're not installing anything on your roof. You don't need to worry about that. But again, that's sort of the skepticisms and challenges that we have to overcome, even at a fundamental level, just to get people to say, oh, all right, you know what? Let me listen a little bit more about this, because all right, now I get it. But it's sometimes that first impression, getting over that hurdle and kind of, tackling the sins of others, and overcoming that is sort of, again, one of the fundamental challenges that we have to deal with in the community solar space.
No question, a real thing. So transition a little bit to some practical steps, somebody hearing that and going, okay, like this sounds great. It sounds wonderful. I'm curious about community solar. Are there steps, I guess, an individual can take maybe to inquire or pursue an option, or is it more to a higher level than an individual?
So, I mean, absolutely, right. And this is going to self-serving, but I don't intend it to be. But obviously, they can come to PowerMarket, PowerMarket.io, and go to our marketplace and see if there's community solar projects that we have in their state. Again, fundamentally, community solar is a state-enabled program. It really only exists where that state legislature has enabled it, where the Public Utility Commission has kind of created the rules, and then where the utilities are implementing those rules. So, right now, as you said, PowerMarket, we're operating in 11 states. Community solar as an industry was kind of born in Colorado, but frankly matured on the East Coast. And again, the reason for that, politics, right? Right. You see that whereas sort of these state legislatures are trying to ensure more clean energy on the grid, that's where you've seen community solar programs really proliferate for the very reasons we discussed. How do we kind of create more renewable energy, but also include as many people in that process as possible? And so states like New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Maine, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts have really been the ones to kind of mature this community solar. It's been around in New York for probably close to 6 years since I've been at PowerMarket. But you're also seeing the migration, right? Even, Minnesota's been around for a long time. But states like, New Mexico recently passed legislation and is working through their policy. So, we're seeing this proliferate more broadly. But listen, if you live in North Dakota, unfortunately, there's not going to be a community solar project for you to join. So that's really just, again, the inherent limitations that people have is that you got to kind of live in a utility territory where community solar is enabled to actually participate in the program itself.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. And some good practical steps there, at least, taking that first step towards it. So do you feel overcoming that skepticism and those sort of things, anything else to add there? Do you feel like there's enough context there to address those issues? Or are there other things that come to mind in terms of just points of friction you overcome and skepticism and things that you hear maybe that aren't necessarily based on fact or reality?
I mean, there's always points of friction, frankly, with any industry, and that's kind of frankly why PowerMarket exists, right? Our business is to alleviate the inherent frictions that exist in the administration of community solar. But because this is a state-enabled program and not a federal program, every state does things a little bit different, right? The core concept of community solar in terms of supporting clean energy, getting savings on your bills, that sort of is across the board. But in terms of how each state administers it, and I think that's kind of where PowerMarket, our expertise comes into play is, frankly, we've been on the bleeding edge of a lot of the new community solar markets. We've been a part of kind of the development of these practical, procedural rules and implementation of those rules. But it's those devils in the details, right? And how is how will banked credits be treated? Bank credits is this concept almost like rollover minutes, where if you get more community solar credits than you need in a particular month, are those credits being banked to be rolled over in subsequent months, or are they being all applied to your bill in 1 month? And the impact of that little rule can be very meaningful to a subscriber, right? It could be the difference between having to pay a lot more for credits in the summer months than they needed to, but then knowing that, hey, in the future months, I'll kind of eat into that. Or when there is bank credits, hey, you know what? I'm only paying for what's applied to my bill. And then, hey, those credits will just roll over. And again, that customer experience can be very impactful. And so for us, that being one example of a friction is, all right, how do we communicate effectively with our subscribers so that from both the start as well as ongoing, they appreciate, hey, you might have a negative balance in your bill, but here's why. Or you're not. And, we're going to always manage your allocations accordingly over time.
Got it. No, cool. And a little bit on that sort of like policy regulation sort of topic. So Treasury IRS guidance around low-income households has been a significant focus for you. Can you explain what this guidance entails and its impact overall on community solar?
Yeah, so the Inflation Reduction Act, enabled for what's called a program that is called the Low Income Communities Bonus Tax Credit, which is really to provide an enhanced investment tax credit to the owners of community solar projects to the extent that they ensure the financial benefits of their program go to low-income households. And unequivocally, there's no disagreement that is a honorable and desired outcome, right? To be able to say, hey, here's a very meaningful carrot. We're going to boost your ITC benefit by 20%, so long as you give 51% of your project value to low-income households. It's like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Where sometimes I've kind of spoken on this and written, articles on it is just sort of the appreciation for how do low-income individuals participate in these types of programs. And Wes, I was alluding to it earlier around just sort of this notion of states that have enabled what's called net crediting or consolidated billing and states that have not, and the meaningfulness that relates to low income. And so within the program itself, the way that the IRS sort of required the transfer of benefits from projects, they sort of made it exclusive to applying credits to customers' bills. And that is the only way that you could distribute this financial benefit to low-income households. Now, when you go to those markets that there is no net crediting, we're now saying, hey, for you low-income customer, we're going to give you 100% of the credit, but now you have to pay for that benefit. And that's the only way that you can benefit from it. And it's sort of like putting all of us in a position that, frankly, is going to create more friction than it's worth, right? We talk to low-income households every day as we engage with them on programs across the country.
Sure.
Many of them are on fixed income.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nuance in terms of community solar, in terms of the fact that the community solar credit each month that's based on how much energy is actually generated from your solar project. And so in a summer month, a customer might get $300 of credit applied to their bill, but in the winter months, they get $50.
Right.
Now, when you go to a low-income individual who is on a fixed income and has a fairly static, and you say to him, hey, on some August, bill period, I'm going to charge you, $170 or $270 for the value of that $300 credit. Yeah. It's like, whoa, I don't have the resources to do that.
Exactly.
Even though they're saving, right? Even though they're saving that $30 or that $60, they still have to come out of pocket. And that is an inherent friction, again, appreciating that many low-income households might be underbanked or unbanked. So how does those mechanisms work in practice? I've always, and my sort of commentary has been around, thinking about how can we enable the ultimate goal of giving financial benefits to low-income households through community solar in a way that avoids that, right? And we get it. Like the Treasury, federal government can't mandate, states implementing net crediting.
Right.
But I do believe there's a mechanism where, essentially value comes to the developer, and then we can issue that kind of guaranteed 20% or more savings directly to households through like a payment card, a gift card, or some other mechanism. So the customer realizes that real material financial benefit without any of the frictions that exist, because there's frankly I just touched on one friction, but again, many low-income households, they're in balance billing or budget billing, which is this sort of process where they artificially fix their bill each month, and then at the end of the year, they true it up. And in many states, frankly, community solar programs, they're not compatible. So again, it's sort of like, how can we have this goal of enabling the benefits to low income without appreciating the fundamentals of how actually low-income individuals get billed, how they engage with their utility? That's where the disconnect is. And I hope, it doesn't sort of, the things I fear don't come to reality, but it might, right? Right now, PowerMarket, we're really proud. We're going to be working on some of the first investment tax credit low-income bonus programs, projects in the state of Illinois, as well as in New York. Now, again, both those states have net crediting. So the things that I'm fearful of, frankly, it doesn't affect us. But I do think about projects in Maine or Massachusetts or California that this will be a reality.
Yeah. Do you think, some of those successful use cases in these states where that does exist, is that going to help the cause, help the message in some of these other states to get on board with that? Or I guess what needs to happen for some of those changes to occur?
Yes. That unequivocally, the idea is that states like the way that New York has been operating net crediting, that Maryland, New Jersey, that I could see it, Illinois, like look to those states to say, this is how we need to implement, make an adaptation to our program to enable to the inclusion of low-income customers, because we've seen, frankly, the lack of inclusion and the lack of access, and it's pretty direct, right? So the hope is that other states, and politics is what it is, where people want to sometimes reinvent the wheel, but it's like, you don't have to, right? You can look at these markets as sort of, champions for good policy. And again, I'll be honest, like Maryland acknowledged that when they initially in their pilot program, that they had required a fairly strenuous requirement to validate and verify low-income households, that they backtracked on that. And in their permanent program, they said, you know what, we're going to enable some self-attestation, right? So this sort of, we have to learn, right? This is a market that is still in its infancy in some respects. Absolutely. And we should be okay with learning and growing and understanding, hey, what were the challenges before? How do we improve it? Yeah. So that's kind of where we are right now. So I certainly hope that states across the board, Massachusetts, Maine, frankly, any state that has community solar, looks at sort of consolidated billing as definitely a meaningful public policy initiative that should be really looked to and implemented, because that's going to have the greatest, I think, impact on the inclusion of low-income households in community solar.
Yeah, such a great point there. So transitioning a little bit and just overall, so if listeners could take away one key message about community solar from listening to this episode, what would you want it to be?
It would be that they can actually make a difference for themselves and for our world, right?
Right.
This community solar, I think we believe at PowerMarket that this is a gateway, right? This is not the end. Enrolling in community solar is not the last thing you do. It's really the first thing you do. And it gives you sort of an exposure to being a part of this clean energy transition, as I've said repeatedly, because it requires no lift, it requires no burden, it requires no risk. And I think it gives those that participate an appreciation of, oh, now I actually look at my utility expenses more than I ever did before. And I really enjoy saving. You know what? Now I might be prepared when I actually move to a single family home. You know what? I'm going to install solar. And that's a great point. That's great, right? Or, hey, I'm going to actually sign up for the demand response program out in the utility. So really, I see community solar as really like for those that are feeling unsure of what they can do, what they could do. So really actually look at joining a community solar program because they'll see those benefits. And then again, the hope is that they feel like they're connected and will make better decisions in their future that relate to, clean energy.
Yeah. And you mentioned a few things there, but just continually looking ahead and thinking about the vision of PowerMarket and the industry as a whole. What are your hopes and goals for the future of community solar, especially with ongoing policy developments that we talked about and market expansions?
Yeah, I mean, PowerMarket, when we were created by our founder, Eric Denke, which, I admire his vision for what this company, was, 7 years ago, but what it has become, which is sort of a software and technology focused initiative to enable those to participate in clean energy solutions. And so while, community solar was no doubt kind of a program and a product that we could apply our technology to, Eric and I appreciate that there's so much dynamic programs that are coming forward now that where our existing subscribers and future participants can go beyond just community solar. And so for us, as I said, we see community solar as that gateway to other, energy services and programs. And we think that we can play a meaningful role in that in coordination with, frankly, the incumbent industry that, as we grow, the public, the investor-owned utilities aren't going anywhere. People trust. Some of them might not love their utility, but they trust their utility. And so, as people get more conscious about how they engage with their utilities and energy, to the extent that PowerMarket can grow alongside of that and help serve both the customer as well as the utility in that future, I think that's really where we want to be, and we see a tremendous opportunity for that too.
Yeah, no doubt. A great goal to have. And I think, realistic as you look at the vision that you have in the future and where things are headed and momentum and all that. But no, I love it. As we're getting closer to time, so anything that we haven't covered today, things that you feel are important for the audience to know about PowerMarket or community solar in general, anything else that comes to mind that you would like to get across?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've been at PowerMarket for 6 years, and I have just had this ultimate luxury of being a part of the growth of the community solar space. And for us, it's really being on those front lines of how community solar has grown, but also appreciating all of the people who make community solar, happen, right? I have a tremendous team that's both on the technology, on the support, on the ongoing management side of our business, as well as policy. And knowing that we have counterparties at the utilities where, to be honest, some of them are thankless jobs, but it's building these relationships to have a mutual appreciation of the hard work that we both have to do to make these programs work. Data, frankly, is a lifeblood of our business, and we rely so much on the utility to provide us that data so we can serve our customers better. And so where I think PowerMarket has really, grown into its own and has some differentiating qualities is both in terms of building these very strong relationships with our utility counterparties, but also on the policy side. As I hope I've kind of expressed, here, it's really understanding those nuances in the programmatic rules in these different markets, understanding, how, customers are seeing their bill credits on their bill, understanding just being creative, frankly, as these ITC rules that came about, I've got clients thinking about, well, wait, if I've got to guarantee 20% savings to these low income households, but yet I'm not sure if I'm going to get awarded, the actual ITC bonus. How do I think about that, Jason, as we go acquiring customers? And we've been creative in thinking, all right, how about we create a subscriber agreement and disclosure statement that enables for both of those things, right? That we can offer a 10% savings or a 20% savings, but there being a mechanism to toggle to a bonus or, starting at 10% and then toggling up to 20% so that there's no need for adjusting, a subscription agreement. So, for us, it's like we love thinking like a partner with our clients and being creative in how do we kind of create solutions for us both. So, again, for us, it's always fun because, again, to this day, even though community solar has been around for a while, we're still innovating, and there's still really a lot of fun, creative things that we're doing each and every day.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and I get so excited just hearing your passion and the company and what you're doing, and you could tell it's genuine, right? And you're making such a positive difference in the world as a whole and to individuals. And I'll ask this question. I asked it earlier, but I just want to hit it one more time just to
Sure.
make sure it's out there. So our listeners that are hearing this, how can they get involved with community solar, whether as individuals or part of a larger organization? Because there may be, leaders of larger organizations out there, others listening, individuals as well. But just want to put that out there to be clear. What are some things they can do to get involved?
Yeah, I mean, again, come visit us at powermarket.io, POWERMARKET.io, like Indian Ocean. We've got a marketplace where folks can see kind of all the projects we have right now that are active, although we've got a lot of legacy projects. And, whether you're in California, New York, Maine, Massachusetts, New Jersey, we have a community solar project for you. You can also obviously feel free to email me directly at jason.kaplan@powermarket.io. I'd happily put you in touch with some of our team to get you signed up for the right project, depending on where you are. And we'd love to have you be part of this clean energy transition with PowerMarket.
Yeah, there you have it. So with that, we'll sort of wrap up. But Jason, thank you so much for coming on in your time, and more importantly, thank you for all that you're doing for the renewable energy industry as a whole, for individuals as well. And I think that combination between bringing clean renewable energy, but also helping with the inclusion of low income housing and some of these associations you guys are involved in as well too. You're making such a positive impact on the world. So thank you for that. I encourage you to keep doing what you're doing and
Thanks, Wes.
living in your passion, which is awesome. Thank you to the audience out there for listening as well too. And as always, if you enjoy the conversation, share it, put it out there, share it out to your network, your friends, your family. Subscribe to the podcast. It's available on all major podcast platforms out there. And outside of that, new episodes are coming soon. So stay tuned, and we'll catch you next time.
This episode of Green Giants, Titans of Renewable Energy, was brought to you by Lee Group Search. If you enjoyed today's discussion and are looking to recruit top talent for your company or find your next career opportunity in the renewable energy sector, visit leegroupsearch.com. Let's continue driving the future of clean energy together. Until next time, keep pushing toward a greener future.